Well, for the first time in this year's Derby, all the remaining competitors were in action on the same night, and the result was one hell of an evening of racing. Kevin, the Derby really came to life tonight. We saw a couple of shocks in the early stages, but then the cream really rose to the top. We saw New Win Taylor, stunning 29.11, Pastana, stunning 29.15, and in between a few brilliant performances by the likes of Glengar Bale and Ballymac Wild, starting to take shape. We're down to the last 24.
Yeah, and look, it's brilliant that the big guns are staying in there. They've been kept apart. I won't say they've had easy heats, because no heat in the Derby is ever easy, but they've been kept apart and they've made light work of their opposition. And look, I think you picked out the four stellar performances of the night. The two clocks would go towards New Win Taylor and Pastana, but definitely eye-catching wise, Glengar Bale and Ballymac Wild were equally as impressive to the eye. There's so many outstanding dogs left in this Derby. I'm sure we're getting down to the business end of it now, and there'll be a few shocks to come.
Of course, we did lose some very big names. The biggest of all was, of course, the reigning champion Lenson Bocco. He just didn't fire in this year's Derby. There's no question. We were waiting for the spark to arrive, the big run to come out of him, but tonight missed the kick from trap 5, cut straight inwards like a dog that just wanted to be on the fence and found traffic. He went third into the back straight, but Toolmaker Sydney was on his tail. We know how good he is 2 to 3, but Lenson Bocco, I'm afraid, went out. But the good winner of this one, Clona Blaze, what a star he's been, the 2019 Easter Cup winner. He's a week after his 4th birthday. Tonight showed good early speed, just cleared the corner, got around, left a mile clear, and runs out a comfortable winner for Graham Holland and Kevin O'Brien.
Yeah, it was a messy affair. You never like to see it. The whole race, the complexity of it changed. I suppose it changed a bit of the traps when Bocco didn't get away and he looked in trouble to the corner. It never looked comfortable for him on the run to the bend, and then the trouble happened. And look, at that stage, you're fighting for your life really to hang in. The two places were gone at that stage. We knew going into the back, Clona Blaze was going to win. We knew New and Sheedy was going to be second, and the battle was on for third. Toolmaker Sydney just managed to get the better of Bocco tonight for that final qualification place. Look, I'm sure Connections will be a little bit frustrated that it hasn't gone the way they expected it to go. He's still a Derby winner as a young dog. I have no doubt the ability is still there. For whatever reason, it just hasn't been. They're not machines, they're athletes, and that can happen. They can just not click on any given period in the time, and for whatever reason, it just hasn't happened for Bocco at the moment. But I'm sure he'll be back as good as ever in the not too distant future. But Clona Blaze, what a greyhound he is. I'm sure Connections will be delighted with how he's performing. He's really come back to life, and he's flying at the moment. He's starting well. It was a good clock, 29.48. He's getting better with each run, and who knows, he could keep his name in the hat going forward.
We have to mention Coulivanny Chick in this heat. Just quickly before we leave, she was a length and a tail behind the leader on the opening corner. She looked at that stage almost like a likely winner, the pace she has shown in recent weeks. You know, that's the winning and losing in greyhound racing. She just couldn't clear the corner, and all of a sudden she finishes last instead of perhaps finishing first. Yeah,
she was desperately unlucky. I haven't seen her. You're right, she was going to turn much closer than she has in previous weeks, and we always said it, when she turns close, the writing is on the wall. But look, she's a really young bitch with a promising future. I'm sure she'll be getting her hand raised on more than one occasion going forward.
The second heat of the night, and this saw a fine display by Great Name That for Liam Dowling, another dog that keeps progressing. It was only his 7th career start. Tonight, he was on their shoulder and third on the opening corner. Gathunda Logan had shown the early speed to pester Ballymac Taz on the fence. He edged in, the two of them clashed, and Great Name That was in the perfect position to strike. And when he hit the front, you could almost hear the shock in my voice off the second bend. There was no greyhound going to pick him up, but Roebuck Boy ran some race in second spot, and of course third spot going to In the Satchel. 3 strong running greyhounds, first, second and third, but Great Name That has now won 4 of his 7. He remains unbeaten in the Derby.
He is, and sometimes you need a bit of rub of the green, and he's getting it. He doesn't have blistering early. He doesn't have particularly strong early. He does all of his running from halfway, and like you said, the whole race changed again at the first bend. I was fearing the worst when after the first 2 races, when there was trouble at the opening bend. I said, I hope we don't have a night like this all throughout the races, that there's going to be hard luck stories. But Gathunda Logan done his very, very best to get across, just couldn't make it. Taz had winged out on the inside, they collided. Next thing, Great Name That's in front, and instantly off the second bend you're wondering what clock will he do. He's a young dog. I have no doubt There's loads left in this dog. I know we won't see the best of him in this year's Derby. This dog will improve over the next few months if you want to put him in your notebook. But Rope Walk By, he'll be 20s or 25s in the next round, and he's a dog that I can see sticking in his name in the hat. We had our surprise last year, who most weeks was a fancy price, but he kept staying on the outside and qualifying. And this Rope Walk By for Liam O'Rourke, he looks a carbon copy of our surprise last year, and it would not surprise me if this dog kept qualifying at fancy prices.
Yeah, I'm sure Liam and Debbie are really celebrating tonight. Looking back in Heat 3, and this was one of the standout performances of the night, the fastest run of the night, New Win Taylor. He'd run an incredible race behind Pastana last week. Tonight, for the first time in this year's Derby, he hit the lids. He needed to, because your lad BoyleSports Extra never misses the kick. Didn't actually get one of his flyers, but cut straight for the fence, gave New Win Taylor all that room, and he made full use of it. It was devastating to the third bend. He set the new third bend clock, as far as I'm concerned, 16.79, an incredible run. I scarcely thought anything would go under 16.90, and here we are 2 weeks in a row. We've got two dogs doing 16.83 and New Win Taylor tonight doing 16.79. Stunning, absolutely stunning performance. We said it last week, he's a big player in this year's Derby.
Oh, without a doubt. And to be fair, I said to you off air last week that I thought potentially Pastana could have broke this lad's heart last week. With early pacers that like to dictate, when they put in such an effort and don't get there, it can often leave a scar. Well, it didn't. He was brilliant tonight. BoyleSports Extra is a brilliant greyhound. He's one of the most professional greyhounds that we've ever had in training. You could set your stopwatch to him, and he ran a brilliant race again tonight. But
he's 5 lengths down at the third bend. It just says it all.
It's ridiculous. BoyleSports Extra won the Night of Stars 5-5 here at the back end of the last year. It was as good a 5-5 race, and not just saying it because he was one of my own. It was as good a 5-5 race as I'd seen put together in Shelbourne, and he was clear at the third. He was in front of the third bend. He trapped well enough tonight. There's no doubt he can trap better, but the two dogs were probably level after 10 strides. He's 3.5 behind him at the first bend. I haven't seen a dog do that to BoyleSports Extra ever. It was frightening to watch. He's an exceptional greyhound. I was delighted with my lad. He stuck at it. He was 5 or 6 behind going into the third bend. He's beaten 2.5 at the line, and that for a dog that wouldn't be renowned for staying on. And the dog in front is doing 29.11. He ain't stopping. I know people might look at that race and say, well, BoyleSports Extra took 3 lengths out of him. He's not a brilliant stayer. He's coming back. The dog in front is doing 29.11. Let that sink in. It was
only 3 dogs have ever gone faster here at Shelbourne.
There you go. And I was one that didn't think that this lad would see the trip strong enough to win a Derby. He answered my critics tonight. And he's a frightening prospect going forward.
Mustang Firmino again ran a big race in third. He has plenty of gears, this fellow. Just needs to get those trapping boots on.
Yeah, he's frustrating for connections, I'd imagine, because we know the engine is in there. But these 3 dogs will go into the hat next week. We know that New Win Taylor and Extra will go head to head again, and we'll be back to make him work a bit more again next week.
We move on to Heat 4. Here, Ballymac was to emerge a very comfortable winner in the end, 4 lengths, but Dearjet Sydney really put it up to him at the third bend. Just noted that 1 or 2 of the heats tonight, dogs were charging. Just 1 or 2 dogs seemed to go at the boxes in this one. Ballymac Wild, though, didn't make any such mistakes, flashed out, was all over a winner from the opening 2 strides. Now, Dearjet Sydney really made him work hard to that third bend. In fact, Dearjet Sydney could well have got up to within a length around the bottom 2 bends had he not had the door closed on him. As it was, Ballymac Wild was probably always going to outstay him up the home straight, but a good victory for Ballymac Wild. He continues to roll, and again, Dearjet Sydney impressing in defeat. Back in third, Razzle Dazzle Annie. She's snuck through again, and who's to say she can't do it one more time next week? Yeah,
Ballymac Wild is just, every time I see him, I'm even more impressed with him, and I was again tonight. Yeah, he cut off Dearjet Sydney into the third bend. Even if Dearjet Sydney got through at the third bend, he was never going to beat him. There would have still been 2 or 3 in it at the line, just because Wild kicks that little bit more up the home straight again. Dearjet Sydney done massive running again. This dog hasn't got it right at the boxes the last 2 weeks like he can. Draws haven't been helpful. We know he loves the red. Put him in red and he's a different beast.
And in contrast, Ballymac Wild, from my mind, is more of a middle seed.
Yeah, I do. I think he runs better from 3 and 4. The problem is there's 2 middles left in the Derby. You put a middle on, you're probably getting 5 or 6. So I think they're playing the percentages, and I think it's the right call. I do think he'll run better from 3 or 4. Like we saw in the Champions Stakes, went up and moved ever so slightly just off the corner, but every week I lay my eyes on this lad. He just impresses me that bit more. He looks a Derby winner. If we weren't talking about Pastana and Newin Taylor doing 29-10s, the likes of him and Glengar Bale would be in years gone by would be at the very, very top of the betting in Derbies. It's just there's so many really good, exciting prospects in this. It's hard to just pick one to be the favourite. But Ballymac Wild, the way he's run at the moment, whatever finishes in front of him, for me, I think will win the Derby because he looks tailor-made the way he's running at the moment. And like you said, Dearjet Sydney lost nothing in defeat. Give this lad a better draw, you'll see more. Razzle Dazzle Annie for Nelius. He has every dog he has flying at the moment. Recently hit 1,000 winners. 2 of them are in against each other next week. I'm sure he would have preferred them divided up, but who's to say she could go another round or two?
Of course. Moving on to Heat 5 and the aforementioned Glengar Bale. He was the hottest favourite of the night, nearly the hottest favourite of the Derby thus far. Didn't get a flying start by any stretch of imagination. That's probably not him, but his immediate acceleration in a race, in fairness, that didn't have massive early speed. He was just too good for them. Went to the front, stretched into a decisive lead, and runs out a gallant winner. Frankie's Jet runs another fine race, tiptoeing through this Derby, sort of the forgotten dog. Not much said about him. He ran a big race in second for Brian Johnson, and of course Clara Icon again showing massive pace in defeat. He's another one that could progress further.
Yeah, look, Glengar Bale tonight was more the starting that I saw in Tralee. That's why I was so impressed with him in the last number of weeks and how he had improved his trapping. I hope he doesn't fall back into that. Yeah, like you said, he's had, I don't want to say soft races, because none of the races are soft in this by any means. But the last 2 weeks he's been red hot favourite. He's dictated, he's dominated, he's done everything brilliantly. As we go forward, we need to see him trapping like he was the last 2 weeks. If he does that and goes to the bend like he did last week, he's still one of the... We saw great support for him during the week. He went... Coming into tonight, he was giant favourite for the Derby at 11-2 with Pastana. There are 2 dogs that I would have at the top end of the betting. I think the market is correct. But like I said, he didn't trap as well as he did in the last number of weeks. But he's just so fast. Like, he really is. From 2 to 3, he flies. He flies when he does hit the ground at the first, leaving the box to the first corner, and he's staying stronger. We knew in the first round when we saw him not staying strongly that was just the dog needing to run. He's getting better. I'd imagine pack him into the competition with him slightly undercooked, and he's working his way to prime him as we get into the latter stages. But yeah, look, he's another one that has an outstanding chance going forward. Brian Johnson, I heard him doing an interview with our own Sarah Kinsella at the far side, and was emotional, saying this was his first dog he's ever had in a Derby, and he pupped him down and he held him when he was just born and stuff, and they're the stories we want in these competitions. So I'd love to see him staying to qualify. Clara Icon, look, we know him, what he's like at this stage. He's as fast as anything down the back. It's just getting him into a position off the second bend to land the blow, and if he is, he's very dangerous.
Is he a greyhound that's going to be better the better the company? He's going to have that run into the third bend behind dogs, maybe a few of the speedsters. They can't always lead, and when the speedsters don't lead, we know that they're vulnerable. This fellow could easily, and I mean easily, make a Derby final.
Oh yeah, well, he has the ability. There's absolutely no doubt in the world. It's literally getting him to the second bend into a position where he can strike, and if he is, well, it'll take a real good one to stay in front of him. Just one word for Kilzaggy Sonic. He was a British raider that came over to Martin Lanny's. He got trouble at the corner, went up the inside of the third bend where he looked like he was going to qualify, and unfortunately he went out tonight. But delighted to see the connection sending him over, and unlucky tonight just to go out. Yeah,
the Burtons are sporting owners. They've been here before, and I'm sure they'll be back again. On to Heat 6, and we saw Waikiki Kino gaining the victory he probably so richly deserved after 2 brilliant performances in defeat in the last fortnight. Ballymac Cooper was a hot favourite. Going into the bend, he looked in trouble. We talked about his seeding earlier in the year. It was his liking for the inside that got him out of trouble. He stuck to the fence. He made a conscious decision to switch in on the corner, slipped through, went third down the back straight, and did qualify. I just wonder, he's going to have to get the traps right from whatever box he's in. As we saw tonight, if he doesn't hit the lids, he's going to look for inwards. But a good winner here, Waikiki Kino, as we said, so richly deserved. He's been knocking on the door in very hot company, and tonight got there.
Yeah, well, we picked him up last week. We spoke about Pastana and Newin Taylor, and we said take note of the dog in third. They didn't run away from him. He was beaten less than 6 lengths last week when everyone was blown away by the front two. This lad was less than 6 off the pace, so it wasn't a surprise when he got things his own way. Look, it was Messy at the corner. Feudal Spirit, who ran so well last week, found himself in an awful lot of trouble. Just on the Ballymac Cooper thing, I agree. He was so intelligent at the first bend, but that was the thing. I think had he been drawn on the inside here, he wouldn't have had that choice. Given where he was, he weighed up his options. He made the move on the inside that intelligent greyhounds do, rather than just staying on the outside. It shows his versatility, but definitely for me, the fact that he missed the break, had he been on the fence, it wouldn't have worked out as cleanly, in my opinion, as it did tonight. Given where he was, missing the break, he was able to go up in the corner. He realised that there was a gap on the inside. He shot through and he got through, which is the big thing for his supporters. We've always said it. He can be hit and miss at the boxes. When he gets it right, he's as good as anything in the Derby. When he doesn't, I still think he has the ability, 9 races out of 10, to finish in the first 3.
Has to hit the lids though.
To win it, he does, yeah, but he only has to hit the lids one night. If he can just stay qualifying, that's why I tipped him up at the start of the competition. I just think most races, even when he misses it, he'll be in the first 3, and he just has to get it right on one night.
Much in the same way we spoke about Waikiki Kino last week, we're going to speak about Mina Miracle this week. She's after running a booler 2 weeks in a row in defeat. Big run again tonight to chase home Waikiki Kino, to get as close as she did, beating a half a length. Like, she really put it up to Peaky last week. You know, she's a fast lady. I wouldn't rule her out qualifying next week either.
No, and Cooper was in striking distance at the third bend. He was close, and he was within 3 or 4, I suppose, of them, and they held him all the way to the line. And we know how good he is. We know he gets 600 yards. So it was a cracking performance from the two in front. A good one for us. We badly needed it after plenty of favourites winning earlier.
Moving on to Heat 7, and this one, well, Scooby Princess. I wanted her last week for a bit of a touch. This week, she was coming forward as many of her rivals were coming backwards from traps. They all charged. She didn't. She took the flyer. She's not going to lead any other nights. Let's get that right. But once she did lead, that was it. It was over.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. She'd been impressive for me in the last couple of weeks because she got it so badly wrong at the boxes, but she showed all of her ability last week to run a cracking race in defeat. And once she was in front, the race was over. I was in the race myself, and off the first bend I knew, well, one position is completely out of reckoning at that stage. Catch Me Flying, we spoke about how he looked a little bit tired and a bit leggy last week. You spoke on your column on Talking Dogs about the fact that Thomas said he was going to freshen him up this week, and I think we saw that tonight.
Yeah, much better tonight.
Unbelievable down
Missed
the back.
the kick, obviously. Many of them did, but flew down the back straight, got into a lovely position, and like it's razzle dazzle peaky coming at him, so you can't say he's not staying up dump straight. Although Scooby Princess runs away from him, but you'd expect her to do that to most greyhounds. Yeah,
well, you'd expect 9 times out of 10 to Catch Me Flying would be in front of Scooby Princess off the second bend. It just he didn't trap tonight. He's not trapping particularly well out of 1. I know he's an inside seed, but he was breaking better when he was drawn in 6. Funnily enough, I'd say if they got him drawn in 3 or 4, they wouldn't be too disheartened despite being an inside seed. But yeah, he was much more like the pup we saw the previous couple of weeks tonight. And also Razzle Dazzle Peaky, look, we don't need to keep going on about him. He'll finish in the first 3 9 times out of 10. That's just what he does. He'll keep qualifying. I think he's a vastly underrated greyhound. I know he doesn't win as many as he could potentially, but talk about a competition dog, he ticks every box for me.
There's 3 greyhounds in that heat that could easily progress next week if luck was on their side.
Very much, yeah.
And the final heat of the round, well, all the talkers, tough draw, Pastan, and what if he misses it? Well, I'm not so sure this dog will ever miss it. I think he's a natural. Tonight, as you said, off screen, he made an adjustment, he went again. You know, it takes a serious dog to do that. I don't think he's a guesser. I think he's a reactionary starter. I think when he hears the mechanism, he goes. And I think he's going to hit the lids basically every night. Tonight was breathtaking again.
Well, if he doesn't break next week, Owen McKenna will be killing you because you put the mocker on him. But yeah, look, what it really impressed me is these blistering starters, when they make a move like that, they generally hit the box. If you watch it, he never hit the lid. He never hit the box. He made a move. He was able to adjust himself prior to the break, and as soon as it budged again, he was out underneath it like a light. He's a brilliant starter. He's a brilliant greyhound. And look, everyone keeps asking me, what do you think will win the Derby? And we're all trying to find one, and it happens every year. You try to find one to beat the Talking Dog, and that's what we're doing. If you look at it on a clean basis, how could you not pick Pastana? He won the BoyleSports Champion Stakes when we said he couldn't get 550. He ran away down the back straight that night after not getting a brilliant run around the first bend, mid-lighted him there. He's the national record holder. He's backing it up. He's the best starter in the competition. Newin Taylor's probably the second best dog to the first bend in the Derby, but unless he takes a flyer, he's probably not going to get to the first bend in front of Pastana. I know he clocked to the third bend quicker tonight than what Pastana did last week.
Well, if he flies out, he's going to be at the corner with Pastana, but he's going to be the outside Pastana every night because one's a wide seat, one's an inside seat.
Yeah, look, and I've seen Desi, Grace and Owen the far side, and they're buzzing. They really are, and the dog is brilliant. And look, it's going to take a real special run from another dog to beat him. And you have to say, like, New and Leicester as well, I saw connections, Graham and Nicky over the far side, and with all the stellar greyhounds they have, they were over the moon with this like qualifying, and I'm sure it's because he's been around for so long, and the veterans, like we said last week, when they qualify, it means so much. It's like ourselves with BoyleSports Extra. Every run is a bonus when you get to that age. They've been great servants and they love the game.
They're members of the family.
Exactly. And they love this sport. Like, that's why they, like, people talk about like BoyleSports Extra will pull me to the box every time, and as soon as you park up the van, he knows where he's going. He's pulling to get into it. So it's great to see. I just also would like to say on the Bold Eagle, we've been semi-critical of him with his stamina, with his staying. Like
you wouldn't have taken 10-1 about him qualifying at the first bend tonight.
Yeah, and where he was even halfway down the back, like you're saying, well, he doesn't. We have seen him struggling to get
there
home.
And fade away.
Exactly, and he stuck at it. Like, he really did. He's a battler, the Bold Eagle. He must be listening to these. And
in commentary, I sort of glanced, looked away, and then went, "Was that the Bold Eagle third?"
Yeah.
I'm not sure. And you're sort of looking at him into the escape and going, wow, he must have been third, because he's still up there in third into the escape. So he's not going to come from behind them. But yeah, it was a big run from him. I must say he surprised me tonight in a sense where I thought he was in trouble off the first bend, no question about it.
Yeah, I'd say connections were as well. And look, he's a young dog coming forward, and we know what he can do when he's on the bunny to the third bend. And if he's starting to stay a little bit better, don't be surprised if he can stay plugging away.
It was only his third career defeat, in fairness to him.
Yeah, I know. Look, we've sort of said he didn't get home, but much better tonight.
Pastana, though, sensational.
Yeah, look, he is. He's the one they're all going to have to go very hard to beat. I'd love to have him. Unfortunately, I don't. I'll stay plugging away with the dog that's a month off being a 4-year-old.
Well, that's all we can ever do is plug on with whatever we have. Anyway, tremendous action in the third round of the BoyleSports Derby. Do you know what? We're down to the last 24. How did that happen? We started off with 144 and we're down to the last few handfuls of dogs. Join us next week for the quarterfinals of the BoyleSports Irish Greyhound Derby.